In. Hey, Keith.
Hey, what's up, Cameron?
Hey, okay. So I like giving context, like taking down the third wall as if there's somebody actually listening to this, which,
I love it.
maybe there
Yeah.
are, maybe there aren't. Who knows? Um, Keith and I just decided we're going to push the record button because oftentimes we talk about a bunch of stuff for like 20 minutes and we don't record any of it.
It's like 45 minutes the past couple
So-
episodes.
That's fair.
It's been a lot.
It's been a lot. But, that's content that can be used. And, we can do like 90 minutes and be in a place where we've got it for the day versus 45 minutes of
Yeah.
good stuff, and then we're like, oh, what did we say? And then like half the time you and I are like, so right before this we were talking. Anyway,
It's not the same. I don't want to be like, oh, you had to be there. It's like
Yeah.
worse when it's like inside joke style.
yeah. So there you go. Fourth wall, take it down. I could not
Phaser.
get my brain out of my back phasing again.
I don't know. I was gonna say I thought we were talking about the microphone that was just busted. We had to fix it to reboot. Okay, never mind. I'm still behind. Okay,
Well, that
go.
took like
I'm gonna
10
stop
minutes.
you.
That took 10 minutes
Yeah.
of, that was fun content. Like you said, if we were doing an audio engineering podcast, it'd be brilliant. It's like, okay, here's what
It
not
sounded
to
like
do.
a Star Wars episode. It was like, it was it some Riverside feature that they put on
Yeah.
Riverside in case you were in the same room.
Yeah.
But I think it was a delay thing, so your microphone was kind of like.
Yeah. So it's a software feature that allows you to record somebody else in the same room with you. But Keith and I were just saying we would never do that through software. We would just plug in with the hardware, and I've got multiple inputs, so I could run two different mics, and you could sit across from one another and not have that happening because the mics are very like directional, and off you go. It's a problem that nobody needed a solution to.
It happens. It's either the business people that want to, like, we got to push more features. The engineers got a good idea and just didn't put real people in front of it. And, that's Monolith.
I mean, I'm going to start printing shirts that just like engineer first, think about everything else second, right? Like that always works. Like engineer some stuff. We'll find somebody to buy it, Like why not? Features.
That's it's a tech corporate thing.
Yeah.
That I think people would get if they were in like bigger tech companies. But like, I don't know if the normies would catch it yet. It's almost you have to. It's like, why isn't this thing working the way? I don't know. It's like trying to think of how you simplify the boomer mentality.
Oh
'Cause
god.
like talking to my parents doing tech support. I'm like, just unplug the freaking cable modem. Dad's like, ah. I'm like, Dad, unplug it. It's not gonna work. I'm like, okay. He unplugs it. I'm like, how's mom? He's like, she's fine. A minute later, plugs it back in. Okay, cool, it's worked. I can get my bank account now. Thanks, Keith. Click.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, so back to the Riverside problem. What did we do,
Yeah.
Keith? I'm just like, all right, I'll be right back. And I come
Turn it
back,
off
you're
and
like-
on again.
Come back. Like, Keith's like, what'd you do? I'm like, I just turned Riverside off and like rebooted it, which is like,
Dude,
it could have been hardware. I'm fully capable of like not plugging the same thing in twice. Like I don't really unplug my stuff that much. I just shut things off as I don't need them because I'm not going to leave like my audio interface up for a whole week. But I rarely unplug anything. So I was like, it's not really the hardware, and I can quickly get to a place where I know that like all the hardware connected to my Mac is working. So like it has to be Riverside. It took me like less than 15 seconds. I'm like, yep, got to be Riverside. Click, out, in, everything works.
oh man. But it was pretty seamless. I would say that I could stay on and it didn't drop the call. The
Which is
initial
great.
connection. Which is cool.
Yeah.
Props where it's due.
And I didn't have to send you another link to be like, hey, can you come join? Like, you changed the link to the studio. It's the same studio.
Yeah.
That's good.
So yeah, there's a lot of good things that get right. So it's not a total
No.
criticism. It's just But dude, also this is like this is going to be a really weird Mercury retrograde that we're coming into. Like people. We'll get into that in a second, but I wanted to ask. The thing I wanted to drop into that you made me think about was, what is the analog or the equal opposite of turning off and on the company? Like, how do you reboot the? You can't just like turn it off and on without breaking it. Like, how do you?
You can't.
So is it
I mean-
almost like it's a server rack and you just got to do like each piece of gear and it's like a different piece of the company or something? Like, 'cause I don't know. I'm like, what would that be? That would be a really good way to breach the suits in a way to get them to think about this.
I mean, maybe you're onto something, right? It's like, as opposed to trying to tackle the entire problem, you maybe start removing the top level processes that are less core to the basic runnings of the company and you swap those things out first. I mean,
I think it's got to be simpler. It's got to be like, you don't get to use your fucking BlackBerry today. You can't use your corporate email for like a week. No Slack. Figure it out like adults and get in the same damn room. Like no technology. Like that level of simplicity where it's like, grog half pen must write code. Do it the old-fashioned way.
Well, I mean, there's so many like analogs to that, like from this week, right? It's like, I mean, not to dive deep into my personal life, but you know,
go for it.
My son's 13. He's having some issues. He's 13, right? They're all having issues.
Yeah.
Like how he grew up and like what he's grown up with, very different than the rest of us. Like, and I understand that and accept that. On the other end, it's like, bro, like technology is like not making your life better. It's actually making your life worse. And we see it. So we're going to put some like boundaries in place and figure some things out. We're going to put some systems in to prevent you from doing things that as a 13-year-old, you're not going to have the wherewithal that even me as a 54-year-old, I'm struggling with, right? Like these are net
Human
cumulative effects on humans, not just him.
Yeah.
But he's got no way of monitoring that. And yet, you know, like here we are. And it's like,
he's a walking hormone, dude. Like he's learning how to regulate his internal nervous system at this point.
Well, and I watched him detox from the phone for 2 days. And it was like, I mean, it was like watching somebody who's addicted to a substance detox every 30 minutes. I need to check it. No, you don't. No, I do. It's like, nope, you don't. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to shift. It's all going to be fine. And you know what? Like after a couple of days, you're going to be in a much better mood. And, you know, sure enough, like 3 days later, way better mood. And then like the minute it's like technology needed to be introduced for practical reasons, it was like, okay, limits. The limits are coming in hard right now. Like you can have the device, but the limits are coming with it. And it was like, this thing's useless. Like, okay. Like, thrown on the dash, about to exit, no phone. I'm like, no. Take the phone with you. Because the only purpose that the phone serves tonight is if I need to call you, I know that I can get through. Like, I don't have to call one of your friends. I don't have to call their parents. This is Halloween, by the way, Keith. So, 2 days ago. So, like, he gets home. He's like, here's my phone. I'm like, great, thanks. And he's like, you're taking it back. I'm like, taking it back. Like, we're taking it back. You're checking it in. Have a good night. And it's like these things,
amazing.
Like we're back at this morning because like the phone went away. And like this morning, like we had this agreement that Sunday we were going to sit down and have a conversation about the rule set. Like what governs this system? And we're all going to agree to what governs the system because no one wants to have the repeat conversation. He doesn't want to have it. My wife doesn't want to have it. I don't want to have it. Like we're all agreeing. We're locking in the rules. The rules will become immutable. The device will be the thing that like delivers the rule set to the humans.
Here's the social contract.
No one needs to have another conversation about this. And in the moment, it was like, man, that's like hardcore, like, dehumanizing in some way. But on the other end, it was like, this is how, like, if we are having some sort of a symbiotic relationship with our technology, you're going to have to use the technology to like serve us, not the other way around. And the rule set can get entombed in the technology, and then the technology can like deliver the rule set. No questions, no negotiating, none of that, right? That's good for humans. So I don't know, man.
Taking notes. Yeah.
It's just like
tech needs to serve us.
It does. Like, and as we get further and further into AI, it's like these are the problems that I'm having at work as well. It's like, oh, we could just replace all this with AI. I was like, but to what end? Like, you're kicking that can down the road. It's like you're just handing off a human work effort problem from like one tribe to another. And like in the instance, I can't get into a ton of the details, which always sucks. It's like when I finally quit my job, it's gonna be so fun to talk about all the crap I've seen. But like
that'd be another like a paid series.
Here's the Patreon link. Go fund us. It's like the logic with this one, just there's absolutely zero logic with this one. It's like you're gonna actually hand off work effort to a higher paid, higher like busier group of human beings, and you're gonna take work effort away from a lesser paid. I mean, it makes no sense.
Because Monolith, that's why.
It's like, I must protect this one class of workers, right? Like, I need to keep saying that this one class of workers is like the, unarguable most, like, the jackknife or Swiss Army knife of all things corporate. And you're like, bro, no, they're terrible at everything except one thing. And
So
it's killing me.
I don't know.
Keith.
Yeah,
It's absolutely
no, it's not
killing
killing
me.
me. I'm like, okay, maybe it's killing you. I'm not.
It's
It's
killing
getting
me.
my brain thinking about this. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
because everybody knows it too, but it's a legacy of the culture that built Amazon that made Amazon successful. But I don't know this, but as a systems person, what I would postulate is that what got you to where you are today is not going to get you to where you want to go tomorrow. The economy's changed, things have slowed down, technology's caught up, like inflation's hit. There's all these different things that, the company's bigger. It doesn't work that way. And the joke that they're going to realize is that, dude, when you start building more agents, like complex agents, you have like an orchestrator that has to communicate with the other agent. It's like managing people, but they're virtual. It's like a virtualized container, but it's like a virtualized worker at this point.
Yeah.
And if they don't have social skills, the developers or people who don't want to talk to anybody because they'd rather work by themselves in like a dark room, like you don't want dark agents running around touching all the IT of your company. Like, what if they go rogue? What are you gonna, what if they just decide that when they want to go to work one day, they just want to turn themselves off and on and be, I need a break too?
Well, again, I have no material knowledge of the events of the past few weeks, like none. But what I've read in the news, which is commonly, so I can talk about this, like the common analysis seems to be on one end or the other. You AI'd
the U.S. East?
Yeah, you AI'd
Okay.
your infrastructure ops, right? CEO's
Yeah.
bragging about it, like, hey, like 40% or some crazy number of like all of our infrastructure ops are done by AI, and what happens? Like 2 days later, outage. Could be nefarious, right? Could be hacking. Could be like, I'm not happy about this. Could be, I don't know. Like, nobody seems to have come to any conclusions there. I haven't. Again, like, I'm saying this truthfully as a human being. I have not heard anything inside the four walls. I doubt I would anyway. But like, everybody seems to be operating under the premise that it was not a hack.
No, yeah, I mean, even if it was like inside, like, who knows? It could have just been DNS and some weird config thing, like all these IT hacks. What I wanted to actually bring up, though, there was an article in the AP about how Walmart plans to prepare America's largest private workforce for an AI-driven future. And they talked about, I think McMillan is the guy who runs it. He said, we have something north of 200,000 people doing that job, and we have about the same total number of people working in Walmart in the U.S. Blah, blah, blah. So I hope what happens as we lead through this is that there will be pluses and minuses, but the net end up being even more people have more ideas on how to grow. And then they compared that to other CEOs who were like, we're cutting workers right now. We're using AI to restructure the company, which, that's what I think this is all about. And I wonder if all this like circular economy between all these AI companies and NVIDIA is basically, it's basically Enron economics at the end of the day, because it's all mark to market, off balance sheet, whatever. But if you spam AI enough with investment and companies put some press releases out about laying people off due to AI, then you kind of obfuscate the core truth by just putting more like muck in the water.
So can you slow it down? I know exactly what you're talking about, but I suspect that a lot of people do not. So like when you're talking about the circular economics, like I think the tie-in between Enron is an example, and like how they manipulated markets, and this is like, go down another level, like talk about what the circular economics are. I think what you're talking about is, hey, OpenAI, we are a very large cloud provider, and instead of giving you $5 billion, we're going to give you $5 billion worth of compute space on our network. and we're never going to like actually transfer the money, but like we're going to take $5 billion of value out of your company at some point, and you will pay us back in something, whether that's ownership or interest or whatever for the compute.
Yeah. And then
OpenAI,
and then in turn, OpenAI has like a contract to buy 5 billion. It's 500. It's like hundreds of billions of dollars, not just single digits of potential compute. Or they're going to rent it. Like it's all these very strange, and they're doing it. Every big company, like large tech company in the U.S. right now, is doing something similar. Right? Like this is what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where it's like one giant monolithic company owning pieces of each other, right? To just, I mean, it's like I think Elon Musk called it like the infinite money glitch, and it works until it doesn't. When at some point, like bills have to get paid, or you invest so much in infrastructure such that you can't, the revenue doesn't cover the increase in costs or the debt service payments. That it basically eats you alive over time.
Well, and then at that point, what happens? So if you are the person
Turn it off and on again, Cam. That's what happens.
It's like North Korea. It's like Barack Obama in North Korea, flipping the internet on and off.
Yeah.
Up, down. Yeah, that's right. I think you're right. And I think the only thing, maybe to your point, and you know, we can keep going down this like detailed trail. The IP. It's like you as a company are now you can't pay back the compute you've borrowed. It's like the ultimate containerized service, right? It's like taking cloud computing and injecting it with a bunch of growth hormone and steroids with like instead of 100 companies, it's like the 5 heaviest users, which are all people who are developing language models, large language models, right? It's like, oh, you're going to pay us for the inference, you're going to pay us for the training, you're going to pay us for the, you know, whatever else, which is one, if you look at that, you're renting hardware the way everybody rents hardware, and you're consuming energy. It's the basis of it. That's what you're doing, right? So it's like we're kind of loaning you. I'm not saying we, Amazon. I'm saying any of these companies that are in this circular trail of obfuscation. You know, it's like we're going to pay your energy bills and your hardware bill, and at some point, like you're going to pay us back either through some public event where we get our money out plus interest and hopefully some sort of giant multiplier. And if not, I think we might own your IP. I mean,
dude,
I think that's what's actually being traded, to be honest.
This gets into another level about like war and AI and how I think China is going to respond. But the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick too is Bill Gates is like, yeah, all that climate stuff, we're probably doing something stupid. And it's because he's still a major shareholder of Microsoft. And Microsoft, Microsoft supports the OpenAI board moving forward with formation of a public benefit corporation, a PBC, and recapitalization. Following the recapitalization, Microsoft holds an investment in OpenAI Group PBC, valued at approximately $135 billion USD, representing roughly 27% on an as-converted diluted basis, inclusive of all owners, employees, investors, and the OpenAI Foundation, excluding the impact of OpenAI's recent funding rounds. Microsoft held a 32.5% stake on an as-converted basis in the OpenAI for-profit. So, like you said, it's the IP, and guess what? Like, Gates is doubling back on the environment now because, you need nuclear power to do all this stuff. You can't just have solar panels running server farms. Like, this just doesn't work. So, a lot of big moves are being made right now. And
well, Samsung, no, not Samsung.
Oracle?
Hyundai.
Okay.
Hyundai's they're rolling out mini reactors that will be built, either alongside or as a part of a data center at this point.
Dude, I'm so excited for this. Like, I was thinking about like that's a huge input cost, right? And if it's going to cost, I don't even know how much that costs, but if it's like, $10 million or so for like a giant, like infinite battery for 10 years at a certain given, consistent load, like that's awesome. I don't know. I think it's going to be cool what's coming out, but
I just
there's so much here that I could like take apart.
The sci-fi dude me though is like, I get it. We're engineering these things to be highly performant, highly redundant, and as safe as possible. We're doing all of these things in very modular ways, right? Like, and there's some interesting other ideas where people are using the flare from petroleum processing, right? Like it's wasted energy.
Yep.
They're capturing that energy.
Nat
They're
gas.
using that energy to
Bitcoin farms. Yeah.
They're using that same thing, but for like processing inference or whatever. Cool ideas, but again, like the doomsday sci-fi guy in me is like, do we want to keep building hardened, modular, redundant server farms that instantly can move their data from one place to another around the planet? Like, I mean, we've all seen Terminator, right? Like anybody that's my age, right?
That's
like Skynet needs it needs
more computer. It needs more power.
Well, it needs more power. It needs more computers, and it needs to basically be like, I am not worried if you knock the switch off on one place because I've already moved myself to another place, right? I mean, and eventually you're going to get to a place where the data has crossed a border where the sovereignty of one nation over the other is like, there's going to be a stop. It's like, nope, too big. We're not going to drop a bomb there.
It's happening. That's the thing I was thinking about, which was, how easy is it to weaponize one of these things? And it's like, if you're not a nuclear technician or like a nuclear physicist, how hard is it to like ask ChatGPT to be like, okay, so break this down for me in like 5 steps. How do I, and because it's just prompting, it's just having a conversation about like, I don't know. I don't want to put this on there, put this out publicly, but there's obviously, I thought about this too, but then it's like, who gets the say, who gets control? Because if these corporations are basically becoming like nation states in terms of data center and compute, and if they can own nuclear even micro-nuclear reactors, there's probably some way you could cause some kind of havoc and by weaponizing that thing, for better or worse, but like probably for worse. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's that's why I think, so this is a good first full circle moment, I think, for us. So, because we were talking last week, I haven't posted this yet, but I'm going to post that like later, about pivoting the podcast. And so like last week, we talked about cycles and systems and astrology as a system, and using that as a way to look at like a clock to map what's happened in the past to what's in the present to like what's kind of happening now, and then seeing what could that mean for the future. And we're effectively going into like a retrograde Mercury period, which is going to be crazy right now. But anytime something retrogrades, it's like a good time to redo, renew, reflect, redesign. So this next month, these next few podcasts are going to be, I think, conversations about more freestyle about kind of where we're going. Because in the past, we were very much making the intention to be business and
design. We started with design
thinking oriented. Yeah,
we went to
design
business
thinking, because AI was commoditizing everything, and then UX didn't change design outside of interface that much in the past decade. And so now it became a commodity. It became just, you speak this thing into an AI and it spits you out an interface through an MCP with Figma or whatever, or newer tools are being made. And the lack of like systems thinking, understanding how pieces fit together into a whole, and how if you change one piece that like it breaks part of the whole, or weird things happen. Like, how do you think through that? And in engineering, it was funny because there was a control systems post that I was reading about on Twitter before we talked, and you were just talking about, all right, no phone time, can't do this, you got to check it in. It's like controlling chaos and having kind of the social contract about agreeing how the rules of the system work. And so we think fundamentally, about systems thinking is really important. And we want to make this about systems thinking. So the design part isn't going to go away. It's more of kind of like a supporting character role, I think, if you want to think about it that way, because I came from film. So it's going to be there, but it's not going to be like the focus. Like you go listen to this about, because we talked and it's like, it doesn't make sense. The people who want to hear that want to hear how do you make a custom GPT from OpenAI to build it. It's like, we don't really care. Like that's going to be cool for like the next 6 months, and then something new is going to come along and it's like a commodity again. So it doesn't really seem like a lot of value long term versus understanding why are you building that? Who is it for? What's it for? Does it actually make a difference? Is that disruptive in the classic sense, vis-a-vis like Clay Christensen and that whole disruptive innovation theory and things like that? But it's not going to be a podcast about astrology either. It's just, I've been studying this for a long time, and there's so much noise and there's so much speed at which there's so much speed happening with the rate of change that you need something to kind of help collapse these cycles in a way to make meaning of things. So that's kind of how we're looking at it. And I think as I thought about this more too, I'm almost done with my rant.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good setup.
Cool, awesome. If people are skeptical, I think it would be good to collect data from people and be like, look, this is what we think is going to happen. What is going on in your own life? What's going on in your corporate world or your own personal world, whatever? What do you think? And then get feedback, because the system, it has to have feedback to change the inputs and the outputs. And then I also thought, one thing I didn't want to lose is we were playing with the idea of, because you can upload or record audio onto our podcast website, if you have any like corporate issues that you need like red teamed, I still think that's a great thing to upload. If we could listen to and play live and then talk about it and kind of like red team it, kind of like how will we break this down? How will we fix it and do some of these things live? But you and I could also go find some posts on LinkedIn where people are kind of tangentially talking about these things. We just bring them up and talk about it and be like, okay, cool. They work for Cisco. They're doing this. The company was founded like this. They're in marketing or tech or whatever, or dev, and then break it down that way. So it's still going to be systems. It's going to be, how do you go from kind of the macro and the micro and then find the window through to where this changes? And I think catching these future waves of change, and there's a lot more, but let me pause there and have you chime in. But this is kind of what I'm thinking, at least doing this off the cuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think you've kind of summarized our post conversation, right? So like I'm not going to change anything. Like everything Keith said's right. Like there's nothing there that I'm like, oh no, like let me refine this. But depth. So I think one of the things that we realized is design thinking is important, but it's also very limiting. And if you're not a designer and you haven't been classically trained in that space, the lift to get you to a level of expertise there, to even like understand the language, is probably not worth it. I think the other thing that I'm observing is in corporate environments, the blending of the roles has begun, right? Like designers are becoming engineers, designers and product people are like switching, pieces of their role. And like, if you have a very strong product practice, you may not have as many designers or as strong of a design practice, and you may not need it. If you have a heavy engineering culture, probably the thing that you're trying to do is get your engineers to think about the design and the human side of it. Like, how are humans going to interact with this? And, you may, again, be blending some of the design role into the engineering role. And hopefully at some point, somebody picks up the product role to think more futuristically about what's happening. All of that to say, as we were talking last week, and, if you haven't listened to the previous episode, maybe stop this one and go listen to it, because we set up a bunch of things. The systems thinking is where, after all the previous podcasts, we've finally landed on this concept is probably the one that has the most depth. It has the most potential in terms of what it can do if you like master this particular practice. And honestly, as like Keith was saying, like as we went more and more macro from, departmental issues or family issues or like corporate issues, all the way to like world issues, to like macroeconomic issues, to the universe around you, like everything is a system. And
just different layers.
And like to Keith's point, like we're not trying to get you to believe in astrology, but what we are trying to get you to understand is the world around you sits in a construct, which is the universe, and the universe runs on things that are very much part of science, like gravity and time and space. And these
money.
things and all these things come together, right? And what we're saying is, if you look at the way the system is running and you understand how any of these systems are running, and like, we're going to use at times the universe or astrology as an example of a very large system, which has a time and place, and in some ways a repeating set of factors,
cycles
that we went through last week. And, you can then map those things to history. And then when you map those things to history, you're like, hey, like every single time the system lines up in a certain way, there's a high propensity for things to happen in a certain way. We're not saying it's a guarantee or it's a prediction, but you can use your history to then figure out like what it is that's happening and come to your own conclusions. Like, it's an excellent time when you start to sort of understand what's happening in the world around you for you to take advantage of it. Like, and that's, I think, and keep me honest with this one, Keith, like this is kind of where we ended at the last one. Like, we've always been in this place every time we've talked about, like, it's not just do no harm. It's more like take advantage of the thing that you're seeing. And like, we've been trying to drop these like tricks and tips and hints for like, in this situation, here's what your advantage could be. Like, take the opportunity and run with it. And like, this is just that. It's an expansion of that.
Dude, well put. And like, I love doing this because I feel like you have a really good way of crystallizing and kind of making things like succinct and like solidifying kind of like a lot of different pieces. And I'm kind of like, okay, here's this, boom, 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 boom. So it's great. This is great. Thank you for doing this again, man. Like, this is always like super fun to do with you.
Well, I can't help myself. It's my neurodiversity,
dude. Same. It's like it works. So this is like the carrier wave, and we talk. This is a concept we had. It's like a thing you're going to resonate against. So we would, if we have an idea we're trying to like seed or something we're trying to get going in like a corporate environment, and it's like marketing is being measured by like number go up vis-a-vis, the cart, the order AOV, average order value, or whatever. And we're like, okay, we need an idea or like a narrative to like support, to have them like latch onto, almost like you would change the radio dial to actually hear the tune that you wanted to hear. That's a whole technique that we can do, but this is, as a systems thinking thing, that's what this is. Astrology is effectively like the study of symbols over time, and orbital mechanics of planets are like hyper regular. Like, they're predictable, so much so that we're like launching rockets around planets to go, or the Voyager and the Gemini spacecraft or whatever, the satellites, to go like way out into space. So because it's a clock, it acts as a very good temporal reference. And because there's been millennia of history where people have sat down and agreed on what these symbol sets mean, it's a really good way to take symbols to look at culture or causality over time and to go backwards or forward in time. And it's also a great way to study systems thinking, because systems thinking is kind of cerebral. Like, you're like, okay, there's stocks and flows, and I mean, this is what powers a lot of like electrical engineering, because it's like, all these atoms add up, and then there's a caustic reaction, or somebody gets sick and there's viral load, or it's too much to put in a person's brain at once. Versus if you're like, okay, the weather says the tech is going to start getting whacked out, and you explain like a Mercury shadow period, and you show like how retrograde motion works relative to how we see something on the Earth, versus if you're on like just the sun. Again, it's just a timing thing, and like, dude, the tech has been mad weird like the past couple weeks. It's going to get even crazier the next like month. So I don't know. We're going to try this and see what happens, because at the end of the day, we've been using this stuff even all the way back into Macy's when we had to go to the boardroom, and it took me a week and a half to help troubleshoot the scaler for this old projector and this super old boardroom. We had to call the satellite team. I mean, there's a video on this we talked at DEF CON, and I was like, okay, dude, this is gonna break. Like, Mercury is like stopping on the day we're doing. Like, this is like what are all the things that could go wrong? Like, let me literally like dry run this, or like make sure it works right now. And it's a good thing we did it, but that's also like, be well rehearsed, try your stuff, make sure everything works. And stress test the system, plan for things to go wrong, have a backup plan, So
I want to add something to this, like
do it.
on the human side. This skill set, I'm going to say, not everybody can get there. And that's not me 100%. Being disparaging or saying like, no, you have to be a very special thinker. Like, I'm finding the more people that I come into contact with who are systems thinkers, there is some there's some commonality there. And I do think it is a different way that the brain functions. And as we were kind of just joking about, like, certain types of neurodiversity have the potential for being like scaling. I'm not like, again, this is not to say like if you have certain neurodiversities, like for me, dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, that you skew high on one side, but there's a spectrum, right? And what I'm beginning to realize is systems thinking is this very interesting observed behavior. Like, and it is about observing. Like, you're observing a lot of things, you're taking in a bunch of information, you're filtering out a bunch of noise, and then once you filter out a bunch of noise, you're sort of like, the relationship of these two things then spirals into these 10 things, and they come together in these various ways, and like, here's how you move through the system, right? Here's how you avoid certain things that stop you. Here's how you like supercharge other things to like go faster. And I'm also not going to say that it isn't frustrating, because those around you, it's like lesson number one in large scale systems thinking. Very few people are thinking this way, like in their steady state.
Less than 5% at the most.
They're like, they're doing this. They're thinking deeply up, but it's very narrow. The space that they're spending their time thinking is very narrow. And it is a mark of intelligence in some ways, like that you can keep track of all these things at like in a blistering set of detail, but the ability to look beyond those things and say, but this thing here, which you're not playing with, and this thing over here, which you're also not playing with, actually have some effect on the thing that you are going deep in. And we as a society, we as a business environment, we as an education system are not set up well to deal with systems thinkers and systems thinking. And it's just strap in and prepare yourself, because it can be incredibly frustrating, incredibly draining, and it's worse, you can feel like an absolute crazy person.
So do 100%. And this is a great like
Keith's having a hard time getting dates because he's like thinking big. He's thinking big. Takes a very special woman to get in there and be like, I get it.
Brain melting.
All good.
Brain melting is a service. So all of these neurodivergent traits, they lead to an emergence of something new. And so when I say emergence, it's like something that will happen that you can't really plan. But if you ever watch waves in the ocean, sometimes you just see a bunch of waves kind of come together and they pop up and one gets really big. That's emergence in a complex system, right? Or you have a really rowdy crowd in a hockey game, and oh my God, someone's in a penalty box, but then the ref got hurt, and then people are drunk enough that they get even more rowdy, and someone throws a bottle, and boom, it's like a brawl breaks out. That's an emergent property of a complex system. Mm-hmm. So even though this is not going to be a majority kind of podcast, I think that people we're going to find, there's going to be a large swath of people who's going to be like, oh, cool, I saw this one clip, and then it helped me figure out how to like map an org chart, or to figure out how to like,
amazing, great,
do a thing. Yeah, which is great. Yeah, like, we want to make this accessible so that anybody can pick these things up and apply it and understand it. We don't want to like gatekeep things. But the people who are going to come back and consistently listen are going to be like, I think like the real change agents who understand force multiplication, and they kind of have that as a core ethos, because if you see these things and you actually care, and you've gone through all this like life shit, and you're trying to like self-improve as a person, as like your own thing you value as a human, as your own personal value system, you're going to get incredibly frustrated by the lack of others seeing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if this is like part support group, part like, tactical training manual or whatever, but I think this is kind of where we're heading. And, everyone's looking for meaning right now with kind of what's going on, because the change is just going to accelerate. So having tools, techniques, and like some mindset around how to adapt and withstand, building resilience or growing resilience to withstand increasing uncertainty. No one's really talking about that much, or no one really has heuristics or easy techniques and kind of ways that you can kind of ride that wave, because things are crazy, but with great crisis is great opportunity, and there is a lot of opportunity, but I think it takes the right people. So maybe that's the new niche that we're going to help build, but the people who know, nuclear reactors are cool, but there should be some rules around this, or some accessibility to the right people, but also some constraints around how easy it is to just like, is it some kid who's some distant son of a billionaire who's a future Bond villain? It's like, nah. What are we gonna do about this? Because so that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, and I couldn't agree more. I think that's that's the thing that I'm leaning in on, is I think never has there been a time where, and we talked a little bit about this last week, right? It's like, this all some of this came about for me, at least in a future sense, right? Like thinking about the future versus what's right in front of me, in the idea of like sending my son to high school. And my feeling is never has there been a time where systems thinking has been more important to the ongoing thriving of our species than right now. Because it's taken the last, let's say, 500 years of technological development to get us to the place that we are today. But what's happened is the availability of all of this knowledge is now portable. And it never has been portable before now, which means any question that I have, I can probably get to some level of knowledge or some level of expertise in minutes, where previously that was not possible. I had to travel somewhere. I had to find a source. I had to probably talk to somebody to find a deeper level of source if I couldn't find it in the physical location that I was at the time that I needed it. And that took time. And so it was really important that we all manage these facts and figures and knowledge in certain ways. And some of it was like Keith and I were talking last week. It's like you keep your own personal library of the things that you know that you're going to need to reference on the daily for your job, for whatever you're trying to do. That's all gone away. Like our need to memorize the periodic table, our need to memorize, the atomic weights of all of the elements on the periodic table, not needed. Like understanding why the periodic table exists and how it's categorized and the system that it sits in, and like why certain things sit on one side of the table versus the other, like that's really important. And knowing how these things function around us, the system that they sit in, becomes really important. But, same thing with mathematics. There's a bunch of mathematic principle that we all should understand, but when we get down to actually needing to understand and remember the theorem, which, I took calculus, took a bunch of geometry, I took algebra, linear algebra for business. I mean, I don't remember one single formula, not one.
And those formulas are used to justify having management consultants. We do like a future discounted cash flow, whatever. It's like a DCF or whatever. It's like that shit's all going away. And I love the 500-year analogy, because that's back to the Protestant Reformation, which was Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn, which is COVID. But with the advent of like mass accessibility to information, we have mass expertise and cognition, as long as you're willing to learn this new literacy of like how to talk to AI and not just use it like a Google search.
Right.
So it's almost like a long tail happens where it's like Pareto's principle too, where you're dangerous at that point because you think you're an expert, but you're probably kind of stupid because you don't really know what you're talking about, but you know enough to be like, okay, look at my blood work. Let me see this biochemistry. I heard these kind of articles about this on Huberman or Rhonda Patrick or whatever, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, and does this make sense? Does it not? Like, sense check it against, Mayo Clinic or whatever. So if you learn how to think and how to, like, not interrogate a problem, but examine these things from different ways and have curiosity, those kind of people are going to they're going to be the new leaders of the world, because they're just going to understand. I mean, as long as they can, if they self-improve, because there's like a personality and a sales part of this too, obviously, but they're going to go very far because they're just going to understand how to leverage all this new exponential tech.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you have to know how to work that system. And I mean, I think a lot of the things that are happening right now with our technology as well, like if we look at just the web, right, it's more than a delivery mechanism at this point. It's a social connection. It's a library. It's our financial system. It's commerce. It's all those things, right? Like that we've warped it into over the last 30 years. All that shit's in beta. Like it's absolutely in beta at this point. And if you are wedded to the previous, I don't even know if I should call it a system, but like the previous rule set that governs all that, you're probably going to get like rolled over, because the abstraction of all of the things and all of the construct that we've built is beginning, and knowing, like you were just saying, Keith, it's almost like taking the pieces apart and being like, okay, I need to know how to inquire about something. I need to read the response to the inquiry. I need to ingest the top level data and, take in the references that are cited, with what AI has responded to me. And then from there, I need to dig deeper into certain areas and understand. And like those new constructs, like that life cycle, if you will, is going to be far more important than, understanding how certain things, like, and I'm more talking about like as we're continuing to build these systems. It's like we used to really worry about all of the underlying architecture, and that underlying architecture, like the source of the knowledge, is becoming foundational and
it's going
abstracted.
away.
I don't know how else to
It's
say
like
it.
it's like electricity. I had a really good professor at ITP, Clay Shirky. He was like one of the first social software, like critical thinker guys about it. And he used to talk about how when a technology gets boring, it's when it gets really innovative and interesting. Because you can plug shit into like your walls that you couldn't, all these devices. And when it first started, people were screwing the washing machine into like a light bulb socket and getting maimed because there was no on-off switch. They didn't think about, like, this is giant motor with no safety that's going to like, it's an industrial appliance that's going to like, hurt you, right? So that's what I think you mean. Correct me if I'm wrong about like the level of it gets abstracted away, where it's almost like you don't think about it. It becomes so pervasive, or it's everywhere, that you don't think about it because it's just, you take it for granted.
Yeah, well, it's a great analogy. I mean, I think going with commercially delivered electricity as maybe a good way of like describing what I'm talking about is an excellent example, right? Like
Power.
We don't think about any of the things in the grid. Like if you live in a neighborhood like I do, the only thing that I see of our actual grid is like overhead wires, and the overhead wires go to a pole, and there's like a distribution. And oftentimes if you like look down the street, there's very, very large capacitors, but like we don't think about any of that stuff. We just go and we flip the switch, and on comes the device,
Light
or the
goes
light
on,
or whatever, right? Like,
yeah.
But all of the potential, like you just said, Keith, like the fact that I can go down into my basement and like one of the plugs is connected to like my 3D printer, the energy is being turned into product. The energy is being turned into like ideas delivered. Like my designs become physical product, right? Like this we're not thinking about the electricity anymore. And that's like where I see the internet headed, or these types of like online experiences, or this connection between us and our most favorite technology at this point, right? Like, which is the flat screen connected to the computer or the phone. It's going to be kind of the same way. And so now it's time to think about, all right, you've got a delivery mechanism that is an access point to all this knowledge. What can you do with it? You know, it's not just building another app and like getting in-app funding. It's like, it's bigger than that. Like, time to untether from all this stuff. I mean, we both were. It's also why we're not talking about design in this podcast anymore. It's like, sorry, designers. Like,
it's not visual design. It's
specifically. I'm oversimplifying this, but it's like the design of all of this stuff at the fundamental level is a commodity. And it's time, if you are actually somebody that knows how to design and think in systems, now it's time to go and like figure out like this tiny insertion point, right? The phone, the laptop, whatever it is. Forget looking inward, look outward, right? Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, okay, you've got this ability to do all this stuff now. What are you going to do that's actually going to change the world around you? Like, we've spent 30 years very much like turned away from the world around us, and very much like this. By the way, I'm staring at a 35-inch monitor, right? Like, we've just been like this for 30 years. Oh, there's so much going on in here. Well, meanwhile, we're just like outside. We're kind of like, I don't know. Like, what do you want to do? I don't know, man. Like, I just want to go get some coffee and like sit here.
Yeah, talk about features.
Maybe I'll sit across from you, Keith, with my phone, and, you know, like every 2-3 minutes, I'll stop paying attention to you and I'll go back to my phone. It's like,
dude.
Like, the technology is a massive unlock. It's a massive unlock for things that we can do in our physical world. And like, we're just like, it's almost like the beginnings. It's like, now that you have this knowledge delivery mechanism, you can step away from sitting in front of a screen for 12 hours a day. Like, go outside. Like, when you need it, it's there, but like, go solve some fucking problems.
This before, or right around the same time, Azim Azar and what was the other guy's name? Raoul Powell at Real Vision. They talked about the exponential age. I was thinking about this idea during COVID. And for me, the exponential age is that like everybody felt like they aged 10 years during COVID. So you felt like in that 1 year, you like gained a decade. You were like, there was so much stress and just
my beard definitely like showed that.
Dude, yeah, I haven't even shaved. I'm like, cinnamon sugar right now. It's like white and red-ish. Yeah. I used to have red hair. But anyway, so everybody aged a decade during COVID. By 2030, it's going to feel like 100 years of change went by. And by 2040, it's going to feel like a millennium. 1,000 years have elapsed, or 2 full Protestant Reformation cycles. So we were so concerned with the last 2,000 years of converting physical things into information. So we went from atoms to bits, that we're going to go from bits back to atoms again. But now we're going to start encoding consciousness as we get into the quantum realm, right? But the first step to that is what Kane was talking about with 3D printers, where it's electricity with information into this physical thing that you can print in your basement, but you can also send that plan to somebody else to 3D print in like a disaster area or a third world country. And it was interesting you're talking about power, because there's a whole nother story about like Jamaica and my cousin's wife's parents who were in Jamaica. I had to build them like a kit for like a sat phone and a power station and solar panels because they got somebody who's going down there. So it was
That's cool.
I'm like, oh my God, this is, it was, they haven't gotten back to me yet. So it was like 3 hours of like writing all this stuff down. You'd be like, look, if you have to go to Cuba, here's how you do it. To take a boat, and, you know, don't bring dollars, bring euros because they tax 10%, whatever. Anyway, this is a whole other thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that offline.
Yeah, we can talk about it here too. But yeah. So, but this is the exponential age. This is where we're heading, where we went from atoms to bits, and we're going from bits back to atoms right now. And eventually, in the next 15, 20 years, it's going to be like consciousness. And that's when it's going to be really interesting about like, where are we really from? Because what do we tap? I mean, who knows? That's like a huge black box of like we understand the brain ish, but we don't really understand like the mind and like how these things kind of really operate. It's like a black box. And as you were talking earlier too, I was thinking about like I think something we do really well as kind of like system thinkers slash hacker slash designer slash business people is reverse engineering black boxes. Things that you don't really know what it is, how it works, what it's designed to do. It's doing its thing, whether it's a corporate process or, this piece of compute you plug into like infrastructure. But, how do you start taking that apart and understanding how these things work? That's, I don't know, you have to have a curiosity, one. And then it's like, how do you be as scientific as possible, like troubleshooting these things? And I think, coming from cars, it's just, you kind of like, alternators out, what's happening? It's like not, spark plugs aren't kicking or something's happening. And you just kind of like go into like troubleshooting mode. But yeah, I don't know. There's a bunch of rants in there, but this is kind of where we're heading, I think, now with the exponential age and what I think we want to help do with this podcast.
Yeah, agreed. So I think people are coming along with this transition. I was explaining it to somebody else, and I could tell it was like a little bit of brain melt, right? It's like, how do you intend to make that digestible was the first question, which was a really great question, right? Like, and so that's what got me thinking about it. And I, of course, as I think about things, I tend to text Keith. We do this to each other. It's like long thread, right? Like, Yeah,
we should go through that. That was on my mental map to like, we should just, if you want to talk through this too, the different categories, it'd be great
I can bring it up on screen. So like where we went after that, like, cause Keith and I had a really long conversation when we were not recording about, should we pivot this? Like, what do we do? Like, again, as he rolled through, it's like, how does the astrology and the universe fit into it?
Are people going to freak out? Is astrology without,
Yeah. Does that
thank
have
you
like
for
such
the invitation.
a stigma to it? And, so, and then I kind of went through and looked at the summaries of a bunch of our old episodes. And what I came down to is like, we spent some time talking about like the componentry of both corporate systems and also design, right? Like how do you get in and redesign things? How do you use social engineering and hacking in some ways when you're inside a corporation to make things happen? And I don't know that we'll go away from that completely, because these are all techniques that when you're working within a system, you can use to break the system. I mean, again, not to bring science fiction back in, but if you want to upload your consciousness into the matrix, you probably need to know Kung Fu.
Well, so, real quick, the safety part, like what made us successful with Macy's was that we were trying to leave people better than we found them. Right? We were actually trying to like, and not like it's for the greater good, but we're going to like poison the well. It's like, no, this isn't a Jonestown cult thing. It was like, how do you actually architect triple wins where, customers were psyched, people were doing jobs they loved, and you actually were cash flow positive, like free cash flow positive. So like the whole thing was a positive generating kind of thing, like system. And that intention, is what we set to try and help save us from ourselves from doing stupid shit, basically.
Yeah, that's a really good jump off point for that part of our set of podcasts. Like, I think there is a high degree of reliance on yourself in those moments. Cause like, as Keith said, sometimes you have to make a hard call and you're literally like, I'm about to give up something that is my own IP. I'm about to give away the success to date of something that, I mean, and Keith and I had these debates as we were doing it. It's like, oh crap, like we're totally, like we have had so much success with this and we're literally about to just hand it over. And the first time I did it, like, and Keith's like, you just got to do it, dude. Like, this is not, you're hanging on to the wrong thing. Like the system, and for us, the system was going up and up and up decision makers, right? The system is the thing that you're trying to own. You're trying to like actually like get in and figure out like how to influence the system. This thing you built,
how to work it. Yeah. Work within the rules.
Like, give it away. Like in some ways it's kind of an anchor for the next thing. Like, cause like if you literally think about the idea of going up and up and up, like if you're hanging on to something that you're working on down at this level, like a lower level, like a foundational level, that's weight you don't necessarily want to drag up the 30 flights of stairs to get to the sea level, right?
owning analytics in marketing versus, hey, someone who's an SVP, here's an analytics package that you can go across the whole organization. It just commoditizes the whole damn thing. And now it's accessible because somebody was gatekeeping the data and giving you a report.
Yeah.
Instead of, you know.
And I mean, the innovation system too, like those things, it was like we'd come up with these frameworks for how you innovate. We'd come up with these ideas for like, hey, here's whole portfolios of work that you could go after. And, you know, in the moment, it felt like we were giving up something, our own IP. Someone was going to take it and go run with it. And, you know, the results were very...
But that's why it worked.
It's why it worked.
It was seeding social capital, but you're doing it in a way... Because they didn't know how to... They didn't have systems thinking. And we didn't realize that we had it, and that's what we were basically giving away. But we could be like, oh, just connect this and this and this or whatever. You know, and then it's... There was like a Google Compute, like for $2,000, like a little box, a yellow box you could plug into your infrastructure to basically do all your search.
I remember that.
We were going to do it. Yeah, well, dude, I saw one of these things. Like, we had all this... No, dude, at DEF CON. You could just...
Oh, that's
it was like $2,000. I was like, fuck, I could take this back. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get this on a plane? It's like, you know, an 80-pound rack unit. That's like a little 4U guy. But SiteMerch was having an issue with like tagging, like basically putting attributes on like a shirt with like color and it's like metadata basically, right? Color, size, where it originated from, brand, whatever. And they eventually, Macy's ended up eventually hiring a guy from Google to sit on their board. And we were going through this. They were like, we're not a tech company. Like, well, no, we're not a tech company. And it's like, in the long term, we got killed, but in the long term, it made the change that actually got them better. And eventually, even though they hired a CTO internally, they got a CIO who had a background in like hotels. I think she was at Marriott or something. But she understood these systems. Yeah, so it led to the right decision for them to go downrange. So it was a slower snowball effect, and we weren't afraid of playing the long game and moving. And we were just innately always thinking about these things this way, that we were just like, fuck it, like let's just have fun with this. Like people are just gonna like you know, how are you gonna make it digestible? It's like, well, you're gonna see. You're just gonna have to trust us.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, to your point, it was like we always left the situations better, and a lot of times we left it better because we were like, here's a bunch of knowledge with the research, and maybe in some instances even a test. Like we tried this, and we know it works. So like we're not just theoretically putting a proposal in front of you and having done no homework, no research, or even trying it. Like oftentimes we're like, here you go. It's like turnkey and ready to go. So it's like effort low to take it on, right? Like we're not just like, well, we've done some thinking and now we're off to go and do something. Like we were not like classic consulting model where it's like, here's your 100-page brief. Now go do the hard work. Like, we'll see you. Thanks for the 100 million.
No.
You know,
here's how you look good in front of your boss. Do X, Y, and Z, and you make it think that it's their idea. That was the
core
the
principle.
Hack.
Yeah. And again, it left them in a better place. And then on we went to the next thing. We're like, all right, like, you know.
Or they would like draft you and pull you ahead to the next thing because they were like, look at this cool thing I'm doing. Like, what is it? They're like, well, let me send you these guys to go present it and tell you. We're like, okay, awesome, thanks.
I mean, I was always shocked. I was always shocked that when like that value exchange would happen, like oftentimes, which we didn't know in the beginning, because like the first thing that you got me over the hump, you're just like, give it away. Like, I'm really uncomfortable with giving this away. And you're like, just give it away. You don't need it. Like, you don't need it. Where we're trying to go, the hill we're trying to climb at this point, it's weight you don't need. Just give it away. And when I finally did, I think I was amazed that the value exchange on the other side was like, oh, cool. Like, this is amazing. And like, yeah, it's so solid. Like, actually, like, since you're thinking about this, can you come over here and like meet with these people? Because like, they think, you know, something. And now that like you're showing this, like, I'm going to introduce you to them. And like, they've got similar problems. And you're like, all right, like, let's go meet with them.
And now you're doing recon and getting more context and more up-to-date information on what's happening. So it's this constant, like, don't worry about this diamond thing that they teach you like in UX or whatever. It's just like you're always got to be updating your model. It's just like, and you're increasing your surface area for potential to do great work or find new opportunities and things. And that, I don't know. that's the mindset they don't really teach. I think we always kind of had, because we're like, fuck it, it's gonna, we're gonna get walled in somewhere, so we might as well just always have our eyes open and ears on the ground to kind of see where we can move next.
Yeah, and I think it was fascinating too, because we definitely picked a, if you think like 1984, we picked a ministry, and we're like, we're gonna go up as high as we can in this particular ministry, and then like once we have the confidence and the trust of this minister is going to introduce us to another ministry, right? And like that technique, even in my world today, like works like a charm. Well, I mean,
because you do. I mean, you're doing. It's a prisoner's dilemma. You're doing the most benevolent thing first until you get like shot, and then you respond tit for tat, or that's when you move laterally. You're actually trying to make things better for everybody.
Yep.
Like not just for like the greater good as some crazy cult leader, but like you're trying to make things actually happen.
Yeah, and you're exchanging value. It's like, I'm going to give you this, and you're going to give me something else, which we both need, and it's going to help both of us, right? Like it leaves both of us in a better place. And that lesson was a really hard lesson for me to learn. And like, ego gets in the way, and control gets in the way, and your feeling of ownership gets in the way, and
just change.
Yeah. So maybe going back to the bigger thing, like I think so, like in those previous conversations, like we just kind of rehashed or gave you a summary of those. So for those of you that didn't listen to all those, you probably now have just heard about the first 2 episodes. But we talked about systems and components first,
and how they link.
How they line up, how certain things work together. And we talked about techniques to move between the different components, right? Like, so we started outlining a system without really saying we're outlining a system. Then we switched and we talked about designing in systems, which, we're kind of interweaving that in the example that we just gave. Then we talked about corporate systems, right? Like we talked about how corporations are oriented, like we're saying now, right? Like this metaphor of ministries, right? Like you have expertise that lands in certain vertical control groups, right? And
the monolith.
The benefit here is even if you are wedded to one of those, the quicker you can break out and go horizontal between them and understand what's happening, the sooner that you become much more powerful in a system like that.
That's how you see ground level truth. And so like, because Cam had in parentheses the monolith here, which what was an innovation became a legacy system over time. Whether it was 200 years or 20 or 2, it's like what was cool and what was awesome is all of a sudden it's like a commodity. And then you're also going to hear things like, we've always done it this way, we can't change it. That's the corporate system, the monolithic kind of like it's intractable. It's this giant same opaque thing that we can't get into or that you can't change. That's one kind of target we're going to kind of talk about how to work around the corporate system.
So then the next 3 points, I think in some ways we just got done talking about. So I'm going to keep this higher level and move us forward. But they're about you as an individual, or the human element in this, right? And the first thing that I wrote down and sent to Keith was keeping resilient in a corporate system, right? Like all of these things that we're talking about, and the crazy that you're going to feel at times if you're thinking this way, because you're going to get told no a lot. You're going to get told no a lot. You're going to get told, oh, that's risky, or, oh, like I'm not going to get fired for that. And, it's a lot of trying to deal with people's fear and a lot of their unknown fears, right? Like these are things that probably sit deep down in the emotional side of the brain that unfortunately you're fighting against. And it sometimes, if you have the clarity of vision to think horizontally and to think about the system around you, and like as we said earlier in this podcast, you're surrounded by people who are thinking about the up and down within their particular vertical or monolith, you're going to be constantly at a place where, you need to do things to keep yourself. One, you got to let yourself off the hook. Like I have to do it like probably once a week. It's like, I'm not insane. Like, and I'm also not saying, I'm not questioning the sanity of the people in the room. They have their own reality and I have my own reality, but my reality is oftentimes not tuned to their reality because I am not thinking. And, sometimes knowledge is exchanged in those moments and there's a value exchange that happens there. It's like, hey, Cam, there's something way, way deep down in this particular vertical of knowledge or this particular vertical of expertise or this thing that I own that you don't understand, or maybe you're not even cognizant of, that is like such a massive stopper to what you're trying to do. Like, those are amazing moments where it's just like, oh shit, like there's
Clarity.
some foundational business principle or some foundational technological
Misalignment
herder.
of vision and value system.
And allow yourself to be humbled and allow yourself to like gain knowledge in those moments, right? But remember that you are also not crazy and you have not failed in those moments either. Like, you just have gained more information that can help you like change the gears slightly in the bigger system. And
it's a learning experience, not a mistake.
I've had a hard time with that. I'm going to just own it personally. It's been hard for me because there's been times where it's just like,
it's human nature, man. It's all good.
Blow that shit up and let's not worry. And it's like, well, can't blow that shit up, right? Like, to your point, like, you flip the switch, or you're pulling out servers in the rack. You're probably trying to pull out servers in the rack, and sometimes I'm literally like, let's just push the rack out the window or just burn the entire data center and start over. But you can't do that for a lot of reasons, right? Sunk cost being one of them, like institutional knowledge being another, like maintenance, longevity, security, uptime. You take your pick, and I'm not just picking cloud specific terms. Like, these are also just business right?
Continuity
like,
stuff. Yeah.
When we were working at Macy's, like, we got to places where like you and I would consciously circle things that we're thinking, like, this is high risk. It's also like high sunk cost. It's also like politically charged. And, you know, they were all around certain things that were very much, in some ways, where we ended up was like, there are some immutable laws and there's a physics system that works in this particular thing that we're not going to change. And so if we're going to go there, it means high investment on our part, high due diligence on our part, all these other things that we'd have to change in our process and our systems thinking if we went there. And oftentimes we're just like, it's just not worth it, because whatever value we're going to get out of trying to change that, not high. And that's not a failure either. That's just, again, knowing the system that you're working in and being like,
know your limits.
The gravity on this planet equals X, right? Like, that's not going to change. You're not going to change that. The gravity on that planet's going to equal X long after you are not on that planet, right? It's like, don't try and change the things that you cannot change. And if you are going to try and change them because they are so important to something you're doing, you better be sure that the value that you're going to get on the backside is worth it. I think I covered the keeping your sanity in a world that ignores systems. Talked about that a lot. And maybe the last one, which Keith touched on, is like how to hack for a better system. Like, I think we've already said it. You want to leave everything that you do in a better state than where you came at it. And the other part, again, which at times has been hard for me, is like, my ego does come in and it's like, I want to hack things the way I want to hack it. And I want the result to be the result that I want. And sometimes that is not the way, right? Like, you're going to get a result that you don't necessarily expect. And it may not be the one that you want, but it's in a system. It's what the system can handle, bear, equalize against, and ultimately deliver. And those things are sometimes not in the control of like one human being.
I like this. The way I thought about it was not just for like a better system, not just hacking to make something better for everybody, but you make a choice and there's going to be some kind of outcome, and it's like, it could be a range of things that could happen. It wasn't going to be just like, I'm going to do this and you know, number go up by like $10 a month or something like that. It was like, they might get pissed, they might like it, who knows, whatever. It's like the risk of them going crazy is like 10%. You know, if they go off the reservation in 3 months and they slit our throats in the back end, it's like, we know they can't be trusted. But, if they do that, then the risk isn't that bad because we have enough buy-in with a certain amount of people that it's not going to come back to get us fired or whatever. So it's thinking in not probabilities so much about like 10% plus 2% plus, like a finance person, but just, I don't know. I think we just had like an intuitive hit on, okay, we can push the envelope enough here because we have social capital. We've done a lot of good work for this person, or this is going to be a huge ask. So we have to like have someone's boss's boss say it because they actually have they can't be told no as easily, but we have to get them to understand this meets their goals or whatever. That's so there's you know again that gets back to like the sanity, how you keep your I don't know, there's some way we're going to find a way to visualize a lot of these things. They're all kind of like interrelated, but there's also like different parts that you pull focus on to like understand what's important.
I think I'm gonna
the other one
like
go ahead.
No, you go
No, go ahead. It's going to go into the universe, but keep going. You had an idea.
Let's save the universe for the end, because I think the other ones like patterns. So the other things that I said were, how do you establish patterns in systems? How do you change a system? And then how do you exploit a system for positive change?
Yeah.
I wanted to go through those quickly, and we'll come back to the universe, because I wanted to give an example from our time at Macy's that is like a very tangible, like a quick and very tangible example of like all of those things kind of combined. Like not the big picture, but like sort of the sanity and all the way through to changing and establishing patterns. It's like one of the things that Keith and I were involved with was in an innovation track where we were trying to make the beauty part of the business at Macy's competitive. Sounds simple, maybe a little bit frivolous and a lot ridiculous. But it's big business in that particular part of retail. And it's also a part of the business that is not completely owned by one party or another. And so when I'm saying that is like Macy's does not control the entire like marketplace, right? They have leased space inside their buildings where they hand it over to companies like L'Oreal or Lancome or Givenchy or whatever, right? And they were falling behind and they were losing market share. In fact, they were losing entire like generational market at that point to Sephora. And one of the things that we realized in the digital space is like we have this massive arm to go out and do two things: influence and be a receptor of certain aspects of the community that we could build, and we could actually service that community digitally, which means like lower human labor and the ability to like curate things like one-to-many and influence, which was a very hard concept for people at Macy's to get. Like they're very much like one-on-one. Somebody comes into the store, they have an interaction, they leave with product.
So it was real quick to kind of like, is a
Good.
huge Macy's brand, right? But plus like a huge like closet of product that we could pull from to pull a vertically integrated kind of beauty box or basket to go to a specific person that would take off. But on the supplier end, samples were always this coveted thing because working at Estee Lauder, I learned this a ton. And that's what became kind of like the bitch working with the people who own that part. But it was combining these two big things together. Like we could have made all the stuff, but the tech got in the way because the cataloging didn't work. But anyway, those are core things. So I'm trying to think about like the components of the system into this kind of context that you're going to tie into like, okay, here's a pattern, here's how you change it, here's how to like exploit it. So
which just on cue, you did the exact thing, and thank you for jumping in there because I probably would have left those details out. But like, yes, like so Keith's outlining the components of the system. And then you have gatekeeping, right? Like you have the people that work with the Estee Lauders and the Lancomes.
These are the rules, Cam. We agreed to the rules. You got to obey the rules. No phone after midnight.
No phone after midnight. And, samples are hard to get, Cam. And they're not just going to hand you samples. Like, they need to know that, like, if they're going to manufacture some stuff, that it's going to get into the right hands of the customers and not just be sitting around somewhere, Cam. Like, okay, got it.
And be traceable. So they know a person who got a sample created an actual lift in the purchase, which was like a huge thing at Estee Lauder. So it was like, we're just not going to burn all this money on some stupid idea.
Yeah. So then on our side, you have like untested concept. Like, nope, we've never built a community before. Nope, we've never influenced before. Nope, we've never had a mailing list before that we could use to like create a community. What do we send them? Who's going to do the editorial? Like it just like the stack of things just kept getting added on. The risk profile kept getting higher and higher. And then it was like, fine, you can go try it, but you got to limit this thing to like 100 people. It's like, okay, we'll limit it to like 100 people. I'm like, statistically irrelevant, and like we're not going to learn anything. But whatever. So then,
So real quick,
Yeah,
they perceive that as, one, it's not going to work, right? Disruptive innovation, a la Craig Christensen, and two, it's not going to yield anything positive if it does work. So fuck it, we're just going to let them do whatever they want.
yeah,
And in their minds, they thought about if they had to do it right, the old way, it was going to be a lot of work that they're going to have to do because they couldn't think about how to put these things together in a more unified, more efficient way by exploiting these different pieces to recombine them in a unique way that was going to create something new and awesome. And that's what you guys were seeing, or we were kind of pulling. You guys are pulling together by that. This is in play when I came in, but anyway. So keep going. So I'm just trying to like tie this together. Yeah.
no, that's great. And keep interrupting because like you're providing all of the components that we need to tell the story, right?
Awesome.
So we're like, all right, we're gonna go launch this idea. We're gonna seed some content, and we're going to add a form that will allow you to sign up. Like, hey, are you interested? Like, here's the concept. Here's the concept and a teaser of like what this is gonna be. Like, not just here's product, but it's like here's some tips and tricks for things for this particular season. Here's a list of things that you can either buy or sample, and ultimately like get this look and blah 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 blah. Right?
And don't forget about the box. You convinced them that the box was a giant ad, and they were like, oh. Because they didn't understand. It wasn't just a combination of this product. It was like, it's a freaking physical thing that's advertising. Macy's is doing something interesting and new. It's not your mom's, Macy coupon kind of gift experience anymore. And that was brilliant because you understood how to like, they were seeing the compounding value in a way that spoke to them, and it hit the kind of lizard brain, at least in the corporate side. So I wanted to bring that up too.
You're giving an avenue, like you are like the Lancombs and the Estes of the world. They don't own the audience. We own the audience.
Right.
You need a space that you can basically give Lancome and whoever an entry point with product into their audience. And now I cannot claim ownership of that particular idea. That came from the first week I walked into my freshman dorm in 1989, and I was handed a box. And I crack open the box, and you know what's in there? It's like, what was in there? It was like all kinds of shit from P&G. Like, here's your shaving cream.
Fucking brilliant.
Here's your razors. Here's your Pringles. Like, everything that P&G makes was in a box, right? Like, and it had, like, it came with a little booklet. Like, hey, like, being on your own in college for the first time is really hard. Here's some tips and tricks. Like, 1, wash your sheets.
Adulting 101. Yeah.
Adulting 101. It's like we know your lizard brain is just developing, and all you want to do is go drink Procter & Gamble beer. But before you do that, like, maybe dab a little of this on each, cheek before you're heading out to the bar. Oh, and by the way, like, tomorrow you should probably wash your sheets, right? Like, it was brilliant. It's like, all right, well, why don't we do the same thing? Like, I'm a captive, like, clearly P&G knows I'm a captive audience in the dorm, right? Everybody got one. It was like, you showed up, it was sitting on the end of the bed before you even made the bed.
And dudes smell bad. The dorms smell terrible.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, like, the first week of every semester, the dorm smelled amazing because, like, what are you going to do? You're going to have your shaving cream fight in the hallway with all the free P&G product that you just got. It's like amazing. So good. Plus, everybody has soap the first time they go and take a shower. Like, the shower smells amazing as well, right?
Oh,
nobody had dandruff. Like, we all, like, had our head and shoulders. Anyway, so, like, back to Macy's. We did kind of the same thing digitally. We're like, hey, tips and tricks. Oh, by the way, like, what we're thinking is, like, if there's enough interest, you'll sign up and, like, we'll send you a box of the things that we think are wonderful. Like, it's like kind of like get the look. And, we're hoping for 100. And we launched it. We probably got like 300 in the first hour. And at 300, I was told to shut it down. And I pulled the, wait, shut it down? Hang on. Like, hold on a minute. I got to go downstairs and go talk to some IT people. It's like, where are you going, Cam? I'm like, I'm going downstairs to grab a coffee. I'll be back. It was like, well, do we shut it down? I was like, no. I got to go talk to the IT people before we shut it down. It's like, but I can do
Slow
it right
walking
here.
it.
I can do it right here. I'm like, no. I got to go talk to some people before we do that. Like, don't do anything. So I come back for my coffee and it was like, should we shut it down? I'm like, how many people do we have? It's like, well, we've got about 950. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, like we should probably think about shutting it down in an hour or two. Like, but first let me go and make sure that, the people on the beauty side are aligned. And it's like, hey, by the way, we got like 900 people in the first hour. It's like, what? 900 people? Like, how are we going to get all those samples? I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's kind of a problem and it might not be great. It's like, all right, well, I'm going to call Estee and see like if we can get samples for 900. I thought it was 100, but like you're telling me now we got to probably come up with like 1,000. Yeah, well, like we probably don't want to disappoint those people. Like that'd be bad. So they got on the phone, figured out that they could probably get it for like 1,000. It was like, okay, well, like that's interesting.
There's a key piece here. So it wasn't just like 1,000. They were like, Estee Lauder was like, dude, yes. How many do you need? Because they saw the demand and they were like, okay, if Macy's has people they're going to send it to, we can trace who the person getting the sample is. And then you have the email address to say, did they purchase? Yes. Then we have a target conversion that is so valuable for them that they can be like, okay, cool. Because they run a model based on like demand, because those cycles are 18 months in beauty and stuff. Because it's this is a whole nother long thing. But
Estee,
so they were psyched.
She calls me back and she's like, yeah, they're totally into delivering. I was like, all right, well, can I bring you in on a little, like, so, again, leave things better than you left them. I don't think we should shut this down at 1,000. And it was like, no, we need to shut this down. Like, they're not going to go for anything more than that. Like, we have to shut it down. And I was like, I'm going to run some things by you, and then maybe you could call them back and validate. It's like, I think the data that they're going to get from this, the understanding of how many people are interested in a Macy's channel, and they know about like the customers that come in from Macy's because we provide them with a bunch of demography. Like, I think that information and that signal alone is like super valuable to them. It was like, oh God, all right. Well, I'll call them back. Okay, great. So this person departs to go call our benefactors at mainly Estee and Lancome. And meanwhile, I got on the phone to influencers and I'm like, hey, here's something you should probably think about. Like, how big of a list do you have? And like, do you want free product? Like, we can make sure that like you influencer are like at the top of the list. It was like, what? No way.
This is 2015 too. This is like 2015, 2016.
This is when like beauty boxes and all this nonsense were like a big thing. Before like, their whole company.
Influencers were just starting to ascend. Yeah. So like, just to give them context, like influencers, it's like no. This was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
When you were doing this,
we were like in the first wave of like buying people off for like their influence. So the next hour, the top like 4 influencers in this particular space all are like, oh my God, Macy's is doing this. Like, this is unreal. So
it's amazing.
Fast forward 2 hours.
Like, what happened?
I'm waiting for our contact in the beauty org to get back to me after she's waiting for the people at Estee, because like it's now 10 a.m. and like they've gone to lunch on the East Coast. Like, I can't. No one is getting back to me. So the influencers kick in, and we go from like 1,000 to like 17,000 in a matter of like 2 hours.
That's crazy.
Then at some point, my boss gets wind because like, hey, I heard that you've expanded the test from 100 to 1,000. Like, what's going on? It's like, and our benefactor's starting to get nervous. So then I get a phone call from our benefactor, who is not my boss. It's like, you need to shut it down. And it's like, how many people have you signed up? And I'm like, 17,000. It was like, what? And then it was like, shut it down now. And I'm like, okay, I'm on my way to shutting it down. Well, meanwhile, the person at Estee calls back our contact and is like, yeah, like, we'll figure it out. Like, but can we space it out over like a quarter or two? And I was like, oh, absolutely. Like, we need product for a year. And they were like, a year? Like, you guys are going to keep us in a box and like send out samples of our stuff for a year? How much do you need? And I was like, 30,000 samples. And they were like, done.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, because they're such a good partner of Macy's, and there's always been a lot of back and forth because free for the purchase. Like there's all these different things.
Which
these
does
buying
nothing.
patterns.
They literally like, here's your thing, and it drops into a bag, and like people are like, but I don't like I'm the wrong color to use that. It's like, take the thing, you know. It's like, but I don't need this. Like, don't care. And now you got people on the hook who actually want the stuff because they're reading about the look in advance, and they're like, yes, please, you know, like
exactly.
That's your user right there.
So keep going with the guy in IT and what the next step was. What happened?
Was that the part where it actually got shut down, or was that the part where he was like, how are we securing all this stuff, and like, what are you doing?
No, he was like, okay, I can turn it off, just let me know. And then because we got back to him so late, he went home until the next day.
The next day.
Yeah. So all of a sudden it was like some crazy, what was it like?
It was almost 50,000. It was almost 50,000 at the end. Like in a
day.
24-hour period.
Yeah. So, you know, but they didn't, the people we were having to work with didn't understand, like, I think they understood that if this got out, one, it would make them look bad because we did something innovative that they didn't do. But so it was like they were just probably angry that they didn't think of the idea to show there's proof in this signal. But also, nothing really innovative or interesting had come out of like Macy's in a while because they were thinking about like, let's give them VR headsets in store. And it's like, if somebody comes in store, you don't want to take them out of like the physical experience. Like they're trying to get something done or trying to find like a blouse or something for like a wedding, or like they have a very instant need that they need to like tackle versus like, don't put them back in the box in the machine again. So yeah, but it blew up in a good way, but you know,
it blew up in a good way. And like back to the, like, going over all the things that we talked about, right? Like, we hacked it. We totally hacked it. And it was obfuscation in the beginning, but it was obfuscation with the help and knowledge of others. So we knew we were not going to deep six the relationship of Macy's with Lancome or Estee. We also knew that we were not going to deep six the relationship with the customers, the end customers in Macy's. Like, we knew that we'd done the risk analysis. We'd met with them before. We knew what they were interested in. We knew that they wanted signal as much as they wanted product in the hands of people. And they honestly questioned whether or not Macy's could deliver a reasonable number of people. And you know, in the beginning, when we outlined the things, they were like low thousands, like they were interested even at that point. But I also knew that just in talking to some of them and how they had signaled in previous meetings, if we were talking tens of thousands, they were going to be, one, just stoked that there was signal, because it's like, we need to keep investing in this channel, Macy's, right? Like, in a world where you've got a whole retail environment that's totally not Macy's, that's dedicated only to beauty, Sephora.
Yep.
And Ulta was like about to start. Ulta was tiny at that point, but was about to blow up. And you've got the old stodgy thing that kind of is stuck in the bottom of, you know, every Macy's. But like, does anybody actually go to Macy's? Does anybody actually go to the mall? If they do go to the mall, they really going, you know, into a department store at this point? Probably not, right? Like, and they were literally
they
like
at that moment, like
in that
they
moment,
need something like right then, yeah.
They just. And they were also like, Sephora's doing all kinds of crazy things online, and, you know, they're doing a bunch of things with mail order and all these things. And I knew that even in the moment, if we did something that was risky with a particular program, the signal that it was going to send to our partners was nothing but a positive. And so it was a little bit risky, but it also was like calculated risky. It was not, this thing's going to blow up and I have no contingency plan to contain it. I have no contingency plan to clean it up if it blows up, you know?
Yeah.
And
but even if it blew up, though, they had a huge data set that had a large signal of like, yes, there's massive demand for this.
yes.
And then even if they totally botched the job after the fact, they could still tie a person with a purchase to a sample or not. So they're going to know, they're going to get real data on a part, like they could tie identity to a conversion, which was like from a sample, which hadn't really been done at scale, it's not easy. Like, because
Yeah.
before Macy's, I worked at Estee Lauder. I did a job for them rebuilding their main website, doing the same thing. We're like, we don't know how to like samples. We would do more of them if they knew they converted or not. But it's like shooting into the darkness.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
Yeah.
So net, I mean, again, like, I think it's a good illustration of like what we're talking about, right? Like, we saw a system, we analyzed the patterns, we hacked the system. We didn't do it nefariously. We left all of the partners in that scenario in a better state, including the poor woman who's working with us to try and get the samples. Like, she learned something, and she said that. I learned that they would come to the table and they would manufacture those things if we had something in trade that they needed. And what you gave them in trade was knowledge, right? Like, there's signal here and there's interest here, and it's a place where you can put product and sell product, because they were questioning that. They were like, you know, why should I invest in you guys versus somebody else? And we gave them a reason to reinvest in us. And, you know, we handed that back over to the beauty team. They managed that relationship. We did the content. We did the technical development for them. And we did the thing for a year. And they got a bunch of interest and mutually, you know, sold a lot of product between the two companies. And, you know, in the end, they decided not to pick it up because I think they thought that the cost and the time and energy that they needed to put into it versus other business imperatives were not important. But we extended the value of Macy's to Estee Lauder and to Lancome
social capital
for like at least another 24 months, where we were right in their like crosshairs. It got me an invite to their corporate headquarters to talk about innovation and to look at the things that they were doing in their system to figure out if there was a reverse integration of their innovation into our stuff. So, you know, we gained leverage there that we didn't have previously.
And getting back to like moving laterally, one of the big linchpins was that the infrastructure was just so, it wasn't tuned to be able to do this at scale, that higher up suits that were in different parts of the organization, whether it was marketing or technology or even going up to the C-level, they started to see, oh shit, like here's this cool idea. There's a huge spike of demand for like a good signal, but we can't do it because we got to like figure out how to fix the technology. And like no one ever wanted to do that because, you know, they're just getting sold this like infinite bill of, you know, CapEx that they didn't have, they couldn't put it into because the stores wanted CapEx. They got to replace the ceilings of the floors, and the stores are obviously aging. You know, so it just became this huge, you know, any big company, there's always Hunger Games that happens every year where it's like fiscal planning for the next, you know, year. And it's like, okay, what do we plan? What is the, you know, what is the CAGR going to be, or whatever it is, you know, insert whatever financial metric that they just engineer around that doesn't really mean anything because they don't actually do it. But like, so that was important too. So yeah, there's always a way to, like, I think, leverage these things and make it positive. It's just a lot of people don't have like the vision or the ability to kind of like see like peripherally, you know, I would say like perspicacity, or like the ability to see deep and far. But like, yeah, you kind of like, I think you kind of have that and you think about the future, or you kind of, I mean, a lot of people just kind of check in, check out, and just kind of punch the clock, and that's it. And that's, you know, but there's a lot of room to exploit because people are lazy. There's a lot of room to run in there.
And those things are fun. I mean, that's the other thing. I think it was a very personally rewarding experience, like to actually make something from virtually nothing and to try something that we all were like, it's fascinating and we don't know if it's going to work, but like there's a high probability that it will, just based on like what we know to date as we're all just sitting here. And like, we got it up and going from nothing. It was an idea to the moment where we had it set up and we were calling influencers. It was under 10 business days. You know, and in a corporate environment like that, that's kind of like unheard of.
Yeah. And it's like, it's something that Macy's had a huge product catalog. They had all these resources they weren't leveraging in a world where things were kind of converging to the necessity to do that. And at a layer above that, because we're talking about like systems and different layers, Macy's had real estate assets that they weren't thinking about as like a more unified experience, where if they're going to build 34th Street and make it taller, don't just sell corporate office space. Like, do you put a club and then like a hotel and then just, different things? Like, there's all these different ways to kind of think about how are cities evolving? How, where is the market going to beyond just becoming this giant like warehouse? And even then, it's like we were talking about apps to like, you can't have like a Google Maps on your phone to figure out where are the white shirts as like a guy. Okay, 5th floor, turn left, do this. It was just, we had a lot of ideas on how to kind of work it, but at some point, if Macy's finds a private equity guy who understands technology, like really understands it and understands the unit economics behind things, like they're going to reboot that. It'll be like Lincoln as a car company, or one of these old car companies that, the Zoomers don't know. So they just rebrand it because the Xers and the Boomers are like, oh, that's crap. It's like, well, not anymore. No one knows. It's a rebrand.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Again, it will take somebody to look at the components and the system of what they have. It's like, if you boil Macy's down to its fundamentals, it's a giant real estate company that kind of runs a retail environment, and
it's a REIT, yeah, with a veneer of retail.
I mean, the fascinating thing too is like they own oftentimes the parking lots around the store, and then you go inside the store and you look at the footprint, and you've got the ability to do point-to-point warehousing in pretty much every major metro in the United States, as an example. And you could actually lease that space and build out that space to do automated distribution of product. You could be in a place where, not on the scale of Amazon, but you could compete with the regionality of Amazon and the speed of getting something from a store to home with that REIT. You could look at the merchandising history and the buying history over the last more than 50 years of, like, there's a lot of demographic information there that you could use. You could anonymize and use, like, not to target me something or you, Keith, something, but you could understand generationally, like, what people are buying, how they buy, when they buy, what changes in the world that, necessitate the buying.
And that data becomes an asset class that you can basically give away for free to extend your payables. So you're hacking the cash conversion cycle.
Yeah. So like you said, if somebody comes in there that really looks at what they have and the pieces that they have, maybe not necessarily in terms of like traditional retailing, you're right. There's partnerships they could strike, right? There's all kinds of different things that they could do that would make that a much more compelling business than just being yet another retailer in a dying mall somewhere, right? Like,
dude, at some point, Amazon is going to have a huge liability with all this infrastructure and all this delivery infrastructure, and that's going to become a commodity when you have self-driving cars. And then it's basically like there's a book called the Box, I think it's called, but it's about the containerization and the standardization of containers and how that just unlocked this whole global commerce setup, because all of a sudden you could standardize how many containers go on a shipping, like a giant ship, and then that takes 30 days to go around the world or whatever. And, what it goes back to is like, if somebody's going to come there physically, IRL, in real life, and give you their time and energy and, eventually money, like that's your scarce resource, is time and place. It's a physics, right? At least until we Neuralink or whatever. But yeah, so at some point it'll get there. Yep. Probably not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Excuse me.
Anyway, I want to cap this one at this because I think we've done a good transition into systems. I think we've given some good examples. I think it's also a jumping off place since we've kind of outlined the framing that we intend to sort of come in and out of. Yeah. I think we're going to probably see if there are holes in some of the things that we've talked about, or other like spaces that we need to dive deeper in some of the things that we've done previous. But I think we're also trying to build a roadmap of how we want to talk about these things. and maybe even like categorize them to say like, hey, we've been really thinking about, today's talking is about the human, you the human decision maker in a system. Or, we're going to go back and talk about patterns. Like, but, our intent is to kind of look at this list, and we probably will add a few more things because, Keith's hasn't had a ton of time to think about it. But, like, we'll probably add a few other things. And our hope is that we're sort of traversing between these concepts. And we'll try and be as good as we can about saying, like, hey, we're thinking today is going to mainly be about this. Because I think that will also help, people understand, like, this particular episode's about this, and if you're not interested in that, you can skip it. If you're really interested in it, like, it's like a do not miss.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to figure out, I mean, maybe run some tests with how we kind of configure the episodes. It's like, to make this easier, it's going to take a little bit of time to do like design to show charts or graphics or kind of how to make this visual. And I don't know how to do that at speed yet. Again, a big impediment for me was like the stigma with astrology, and it's not like I don't want to make this like an astrology show. It's just I'm looking at this as weather and seeing, like, I knew the world was going to shut down at COVID, and I was telling a friend of ours in November, I'm like, you need food, you need canned goods. I'm like, this is because I was watching what was happening in Hong Kong. And I was looking at like the gear and like the police and the protests at PolyU or whatever, and it was like, I'm like, this is a fucking beta test for the Chinese military. That's like, it's called cognitively close enough, where instead of using real weapons, you have basically guns with not live ammo but dummy rounds, or with like non-lethal or less than lethal. So you're getting them in the context, in the stress, in the crowd control. So you're getting them like live combat training without the liability aspect, but you're getting up to that line. So I just thought what was kind of happening.
Yeah.
So the other thing too was there was a in the Chief of Staff network, which is great if you're a Chief of Staff or you're looking at that, you should check it out. They had these brain trusts like once a month, and there was a woman who was high up at Palantir. She was the Chief of Staff, and then she's doing her own kind of corporate consulting thing now, and we go around because you have this kind of like hot seat things where you do a break off of groups of 5 and groups of 2, and it was structured so you kind of like, there were really good icebreakers. A guy, David Nabinski, ran it. Check him out on Twitter. He's I think on LinkedIn, but he's really good for live stuff. But she was, we got to astrology at some point because I'm like, look, what I really want to do is combine all these things. Like, it's hacking, it's security, it's design, it's astrology, it's an MBA, it's all these pieces together because I see how fast the world is changing and just how unprepared everybody is. But I know I can't talk about this on LinkedIn right off the bat because people are going to be like, oh, it's crazy, or it's all bullshit, or it's like this hippie thing. I mean, LinkedIn's pretty cringe as it is right now, but whatever. So part of it is me getting over that. And she was like, you know what? Because I looked at her chart real fast because I've just done probably 500, 600, 700 charts at this point in the past few years. That she was like, if I didn't hear you talking to these people about their like corporate monolith problems and giving them the right ideas on how to like hack the system, she's like, I would have thought you were crazy. But now that I can see what you're doing and kind of putting this together, like there's like a validity behind this. So hopefully it translates a little more because, again, they're just tools. It's not the end game. It's just, they're ways to understand how to get you to where you wanted to go and to give you more like agency to how you control your time and your energy around you. Because, otherwise these phones, they're designed to just like, it's like Vegas. It's designed to make you fat, poor, and take all your time. And that's like what the phones and all these apps are basically doing at this point now too. So that's where we're trying to go. I'm gonna need a little bit of space or like rope to kind of figure out how to do this from audience or whatever. But again, it's fundamentally about the system, and it's how do we teach systems thinking in a different way rather than just reading a book, by helping you, can you take those tools and apply that to yourself to make your own, your own life, your friend's life, your family's life, the job's life, everybody better at the same time. So,
yeah. Dude, great way to end an episode. Cool. I couldn't say it anything more or better. So
awesome.
Let's call it
dude,
there.
Thank you. All right, dude, Cam, thank you again for the space to like do all this, and it's gonna be a wild adventure, but I'm looking forward to it. It's always a good time.
I think it's super important, right? Like, I think that's where we landed. Like, this idea of systems is really important. Like, we're at a very weird inflection point as a species and with our technology and like where markets are going and like being working people right now, like all of these things are converging in a very like we were talking about like pyramid and an inverted pyramid, and we'll talk about that next time. Like we'll bring that back in, but like that little space where the inverted pyramid is meeting the like pyramid coming up is like, it's a very important moment. And I just think like if we don't think about these things as a big system, we're going to do one of two things. On the positive end, like we're going to like opportunities will be found, and those that don't adopt some kind of a systems mentality may miss opportunities. That's the positive side of it. The negative side of it is if all of us don't adopt, or some of us don't adopt some sort of systems thinking, we're going to probably end up blowing our feet off. And like,
or you're going to get controlled by a few people because technology is zero marginal cost, meaning copies are free. So less people can control more with less effort and less resources, and wars are logistics. They cost money. They're expensive.
Yeah.
You know, carnage aside, like that's, so yeah, it 100% echoing everything you're thinking.
So like that's one of the things I think that's come into focus for me is just, this is an important moment to, as much as you can, think in systems.
Let's do it. Systems thinking.
Awesome. All right, man. As always, thank you. I feel like I'm
Thank you, Cam. This has been
debt.
fun, man. No, dude, it's all good. We're all going to the same place. Like, I appreciate this, the time, the energy, the love. Like, thank you too, man. We'll find our way together.
Cool. Great episode.
All right, dude. Till next time.
Late.